Okay. Hello, John.
Hello, Anwar.
And today we're going to talk about old Mr. Brennan. Old Mr. Brennan is from Brennan's bread fame. Today's bread today. He has died at 82 years of age. Um, he had humble beginnings in this one room baking his bread, and he went on to have a factory in Walkinstown and feed the nation. So quite a remarkable man. And of course, he had 7 children, which is even more remarkable for a businessman that was so busy, you know.
That's right. Now, his first bakery was a small room or something like that in a place called Fumbally Lane
Hmm.
in Dublin 8, near what might call the Liberties. And I worked for 10 years in the pet food business in Mill Street. And O'Keefe was across the road, part of the establishment. And then on Fumbally Lane, there was a pub on the corner of Mill Street and Fumbally Lane. And in Fumbally Lane, there was various characters, including Johnny Fortycoats, and there was businesses of one kind or another in Fumbally Lane. It's often in these places, and I think years before that, people often kept pigs in their backyard. So it was do it yourself as you go along kind of thing. And so they were all self sufficient in their own way. And then there were some people living in houses in those areas, including Johnny Forticoat. So there was a mixture of citizens there, from humble to perhaps beginning to climb the ladder, if you like, of being some way independent. Dole was a very meagre affair. You might just get a meal one day a week and then you'd starve for the rest. So I worked. Now, when Britain's Bread, they were there, and then they moved to another place before they moved to Walkinstown. And they had a good sized bakery there. And they baked at night time. Now, the business of Brennan's Bread, I knew Joseph Brennan, Lord of mercy on him. I'd be saying, I know, Father, Hail Mary and glory be to their Father for the happy repose of their souls, of his soul, and his late wife. And also the family that he had, 7 children. And I knew one of the sons. I used to come near where I eventually had a shop when I worked in Brennan's. And and also in the bakery, because you'd have to go there kind of nearly in the middle of the night, 3:30 in the morning. So your sleep was a very disjointed affair. You could nearly stand on your feet like a horse in sleep, that kind of way. So up used to go, and then you'd be helping to pack the bread into the with the biggish a biggish vehicle, shall we say, that we had for the bread, a big vehicle, because we supplied a couple of vans on the way to carry them across later on. So his brother worked in the bakery, and he was a very nice man. I knew him well. And so you'd be humping bread in trolleys and then putting them in according to what way you might be unloading them. So there was a method in everything. So this is what I was at. But I met Joe Brennan when I went there first. And he had a sales manager, a very nice, good man, and I'm sure I knew his name off by heart, but just at the minute it's out of my head.
Hmm.
But anyway, it was a very happy place because there was other lads going about loading their vans, so it was a hub of activity in the middle of the night, if you like, and all happy as Larry as far as I can make out. So and then I loaded the van with this lad, and off we went. I was an able-bodied helper, shall we say. And eventually I started driving that big lorry and doing when the lad went on holiday. So I was there for, we'd say, a few months, and I was getting cash, €100 into my hand every week. There was no paperwork sort of attached to it because of the nature of what I was doing. And and I got to know the situation with regard to the vans. The people bought their own vans, and then Brennan's put livery on it. You know, it was fairly standard, the yellow with Brennan's bread today. And then Brennan's also supplied the racks, so the bread would go in depending on the routes that they had. They all had their different routes, and I helped some of them then as well, that were delivering to the like of Super Quinn and some other ones. I think Tesco was knocking about. So I was with one lad then doing that later on for a bit. And then I was driving the big van myself up the country, and doing the route that I had been doing with the other lads. So we went and we had a couple of customers and carried them across, and a couple of other ones come around by, I think, Drogheda and that way, you know. So it was a longish day in some ways, but I was able to do it and pick it up, you know. And so I had the experience of Mr. Joe Brennan, and he was a nice man, I have to say. And the people were didn't get a salary as such, but they got a good discount on the bread, and they were able to sort of make a good living, and they were independent, and they looked after their own tax affairs. So this was the business, and the fact of bread spread today, that was a good slogan. And the man that did that lived in Aiden's Park, just a place that when I was doing the insurance as well later on for the Royal Eye, where I knew the man. And then when I retired from that, I went into the dog food the same as I worked at before. I got him to do a slogan, and he said, "The mighty legend is back, Spot." And he produced a thing, and I used it, and it was effective.
Very good.
So, you know, you learn things as you're going through, and the more sort of experience you have in different companies, it kind of stands to you, because you're dealing with different types of people here, there, and yonder. And
Yeah.
that's how I have such experience with all sorts of outfits in Dublin, and not only Dublin, but London as well. So I observed as it was going along, and you don't know that it's going to stand to you as you come get on, because the business of what we're at the Christian TV Ireland, I never knew that I'd be going down that particular road. It come round about. It wasn't something that was planned when I started. We started doing the Christian Christian and Jobs Action Party, and so we developed then, and somehow or other it came into this business of the Christian TV Ireland a few years ago. I don't know how it come about or why it came about, but it did.
Hmm.
So there's always a road that you travel, and
I
sometimes you don't
think
realise.
I think if I remember correctly, it was I said to you that you would have made a good priest. So I remember saying this to you, okay, and that maybe we should start a Catholic TV station or a Christian TV station. I think that was
No,
it.
maybe that's correct and right. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's where it come from. That's good, because for the life of me, I don't know how it come into it, but you come out with that. And quite frankly, I did have a vocation years ago, when a priest come when we were doing our leaving cert, and he was a Sacred Heart priest, and it was missions. Now, I was never too keen on going on missions,
Hmm.
maybe to the United States or somewhere like that, not to Britain now, places like that. I wasn't too keen on going to Africa, because I used to hear, or rather, when we did our geography, it was known as the white man's grave. Grave. So the kind of that stuck in my mind. So I wasn't too keen, because you'd pick up malaria, God knows what. And I met a priest one time that was back, and I was at a wedding, and he had been in Africa. And I said, "Did you get malaria?" "Oh, we did." But he is treated for it. So, do you see where I'm coming from?
Hmm.
So, anyway, the Sacred Heart. And he called to the house one to it and went for a chat. But when I heard something about the missions, I kind of, the mind closed off. And but at that time there was plenty of vocation to the priesthood. Seminaries were packed, so they weren't short of people that had vocations or what have you. And they often went.
Hmm.
So this was a thing. So you were quite right when you mentioned that, because I did for a period of time, and though I like to be going to dances and things like that. So as a priest, you couldn't be doing things like that. So
Well, I suppose
there was that mixture.
the thing about it is, I suppose, when it comes to the ladies, I suppose you have massive potential, and that would be a serious distraction, a man of your potential,
Right and right.
because you're quite a
So
scholar. You've
I had to
quite many
weigh up the
talents.
pros and cons of that situation.
Yes. Yeah, and what I want to say to you there is, okay, about Brennan's bread. Okay, we'll go back to that for a second. Okay, it's one thing to make bread, it's another thing to sell bread. Okay, and
Right.
so today's bread today was a great slogan. Okay, and old
It
Mr.
was.
Brennan. Now, the thing about the phrase old Mr. Brennan is that it's I think I can remember that. I was really surprised to hear that Mr. Brennan had died, because I suspected he died 100 years ago, because I've been hearing this advert, old Mr.
Right.
Brennan, since I was a child. I think I can't remember. It's where it came from.
Exactly.
Okay, it seems, but the thing
Well,
is,
that's where it come from, Glad and Bray in Aden Terrace, or and it's called. Matter of fact, I think it was called Brennan's
terrace.
Terrace
Uh-huh.
of Parade. There's a couple of different names on that particular area, because I was doing the insurance there, and I had a couple of very good customers, and would have an odd good chat with here, there, and yonder. And in one of the houses, I got my tea and nice bit of biscuits. I think one of those Kit Kat lads, and a bit of a chat and holding forth on the issues of the day. So I had a familiarity with that. So this is what happens when you're doing jobs, because subsequently I got him to do a slogan for the spot dog food. The mighty legend is back, or something like that. He mentioned that.
Yeah.
So whatever way he mentioned, I used it, and it come very well.
One thing I want to ask
So
you is,
there you.
while we're on the subject of phrases and trademarks and advertising and the whole lot, is, did you ever in your travels come across Saatchi and Saatchi?
I did advertising.
Yes, 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 yes. They were the so.
Yeah, I think they bought Kennedy Brindley. They were a big advertising agency, and of course they
Yeah,
were
well,
kingpins. They brought that, and because when I worked in the Independent for a while as a junior office boy, and I left it and went on to other things, because I didn't want to be in the one job all my life and grow into a sort of I wanted experience, quite frankly.
yeah.
And but I used to call to all the advertising agencies, and I knew them all. And I'll tell you one thing: some of the receptionists in those agencies that I got to know, and I got to know them all, every one of them. And they were like film stars. They were very, very good looking. And
Wow.
one of them expressed an interest in a fella now that was doing TV then. He was a journalist, Vincent Brown. And he was a fairly good journalist. He had the talent. And he was a handsome individual, well, from Limerick. And one of these lovely looking receptionists. And I said to myself, goodness, what's he got that the rest of us haven't got? Anyway, remember that little episode. So you'd be surprised what you come about when you were going, because as you're going about, you're yapping to people and that, and I was that way inclined. Even as a young fellow, when I was the father was carrying me by the hand in a College Street and carrying my brother down, I'm looking around at whatever's going on, even at that age, about 2.5 or 3.
Uh-huh.
So do you see, it starts young,
It
and
starts young
you're curious.
and it only gets better.
Well, this is it, and I think when you've experience of life and you're not in the one rut, all your life, like say the civil service or something. God, I'd die if I was just stuck there like at that place. Permanent
Uh,
pension bill, and you return, you wouldn't have two words to rub together, because I used to call to people in purchase type houses where there was retired civil servants, and honest to God, they were the driest bird I ever had the misfortune to come across.
okay.
They had nothing to say about anything because they had no experience of life.
Yeah, look, the thing is, I remember being in Ballsbridge in AIB's head office before they demolished it, and I was in their debt department for somebody. And the thing about it was that I just thought, God, this is a horrible existence. Imagine working here, and coming in every day
I
for
think
30
they
years.
might think
God
they're on the pig's
Almighty.
back, but yeah, they
Yeah.
might think they're on the pig's back, they've arrived, but it's you're in there, and like in a prison in some ways.
Do you know,
Because
like,
I worked originally in offices, and the grand job in the Semler's garage, my first one of any consequence, and got on well. And I was answering the phone and had a varied sort of a job, and in and out and all the rest of it. So there was a lad assisting the works manager, but he was stuck over there. I had more going around, and that kind of thing. So, and I talked to it, but there was a sales lad there that was in the office with the boss that I liked, Michael Fagan. He had an Irish associate of work, and he was as three a lad as I ever come across. And I thought, goodness, I couldn't work with a person like that. Do you know what I'm saying? Even at that age,
hmm
in my 20s, early 20s, not even, yeah, 1920. And so you learn as you go through life who you can work with and who you can't. You know what I'm saying? You learn that because, like, you're you do come across people, and I have friends, thank God, from the time I was young,
hmm
all these years, and some of them are great friends even still. And I often stay in their houses in Dublin and in Boyle, where I still have friends, even go back to that time when I was in Boyle as a young person. There you are. So this is it, but we're talking about Brennan's bread. Funny how you stray, isn't it?
hmm
Um, because something, the fact that I know the individual that developed that slogan, and by goodness, was that some slogan. I hope he was well rewarded, and he was a nice man. He was older at the time. He's probably gone to his maker by now, but he was had that talent.
Very good. And mentioned there, do you want to say a prayer? Do you want to do it privately or do you want to do it at the end of the?
I know I'm going to do it now, so because we've
Okay.
been talking about Mr. Joseph Brennan, and he's just died, and he was a very nice man, and I think he prospered during life because I think he would have been a practicing Catholic as far as I know, and his family as well. So and his late wife, so I'll include the two of them, and perhaps his brother that worked in the bakery has gone to his maker because he was older than Joseph. So I'm going to say an Our Father, Hail Mary, and glory be to the Father, but happy repose of their souls. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. May their souls, Mr. Joseph Brennan, his late wife, or the prisoner, and his brother that worked in the bakery that probably has died, may they rest in peace, and the light of heaven shine upon them. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. By the way, before I finish, um, when I had a shop, they were on to me. I had a fella delivering then that was working in Brennan's. I took their bread, and I got him, cut, and and it was quite good. and in regard to they wanted me back. I got then when I had the shop. Next thing is I got a management course that lasted for 6 months and paid and all the rest of it and marching up the the management tree if you could. Anyway, suffice to say that that happened and I wanted to be back and at a bigger payment, but life took a different turn. And mind you, you were physically hard and you were working hard, as I say, going in the middle of the night. And in some ways, long term, that wouldn't suit John Augustine Malone. You know what
I
I
just want
mean?
to ask you, John.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
mentioned there that you had a shop. You had a shop.
Yeah, well, the way that come about was I supplied a fellow with Shelvin when I was doing a bit of that, and it improved overall situation. He was into his father had a great business in the haberdashery business, the sort of stuff that sold, and he was very successful. And so he had that sort of stuff. And then for some reason or other, he asked me would I like to take it over, and I did, but I didn't do the sort of stuff he did. I put in grocery stuff and sweets and oranges and pears or bananas, and the kids. There was a secondary school around the corner, and I used to have this fella's father. He lived in Turnure, just up the road, to sort of keep them not too many in at one time. So that was his job, because it'd be opened at 8 or 7:30, and be got to be in there, and all the oranges and fruit was taken off. The girls were looking after number one, I suppose their figure or whatever so the fruit used to sell very well, and I used to sell a box of Mars bars every day and various other ones that I had. I did a different job than him, and then I had a little heater because in the winter time it got cool. But then I marched on somewhere else. So life takes different
You're
turns.
you're quite an enigma because I've known you a long time and I've never ever knew that you had your own shop. Mother of God,
Yeah.
is there anything you haven't done? Mother of God,
Well, but as I say, this is all. It was beside Flood's pub, of which people used to go into beside us, and I knew one of Joe Brennan's sons. He used to go in there. They got into the shop, and I did a fair good business because I got on it with the people, and I put the name over. I don't know what kind of a name was on it, but I put up a different sign called it Jack's, just for it easy to
yeah.
remember. And some of the kids from around, good, there were fine houses around, used to come in and say, "Where's the Jacks?" And I used to say to them, "Have you no Jacks at home? Why don't you use them Jacks? No, this is private. You can't use any Jacks here." So it was all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I'm saying?
Very good.
Humor.
So there we go. Yes, interesting stories. So R.I.P. Rest in peace to old Mr. Brennan. He's a legend.
Rest in peace, and may the light of heaven shine upon them, amen. Because they were very good, and they developed a very good product, and it's all over the country. Originally, it was just in Dublin, but then they spread out, and by goodness, it did well. Yeah, they're one of the most popular bakeries in the country.
There you go. Thanks very much, John.
Pat, Pat the baker from Granard. They're very good as well. As
Hmm.
family owned. So there's one or two like that, and but Brennan's come up very good. There was Johnson Mooney and O'Brien's one time in Bod's Bridge, and they were very successful, and I knew them too. So I know a fair bit about the overall situation vis-a-vis the bakery business.
Very good. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much, Oliver.